and welcome everybody to episode number 42 of Mac Yak. So say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
Dan's over off the camera right there. So Rocky will be here with us a little bit later. He had to go pick up his daughter. That's why he's got the sad Mac in his spot right now. But no names tonight since I didn't have enough room to put all the names, and I had to kind of stretch videos out and put people in spots and stuff. So hopefully everybody likes the layout tonight.
It's quite horrible. I don't like it at all.
You don't like because yours is a little bit smaller?
It's much better than the yellow one.
I'm supposed to be full screen and everybody else in little tiles underneath.
Well, at least we're not moving in and out on the screen now.
Well,
like on
remember, we did
FaceTime.
have a conversation about this there, Grooty, and you haven't been here for a while to understand the reason why we're not using FaceTime anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it runs like crap. I know
Yes.
that much.
So we have been using Skype for about, almost 2 months now, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Now we don't get the little floating windows and stuff like that. We're actually static, and everybody is on the screen at the same time, and nobody's in the little, cubby hole in the bottom down there, because Skype or FaceTime and its infinite wisdom only lets you have 4 people on the screen at one time. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to revisit FaceTime if they make major changes, but...
Well, another issue with FaceTime is because of the way it does its audio and it captures like all the audio from everything, it's a pain to do, especially in OBS. OBS would be hard to do FaceTime on. And I really don't want to go back to Wirecast again because that one was giving us a lot of problems. OBS actually has worked pretty much every time so far. Except for tonight. We were a little bit late only because I had some issues with YouTube and the stream key. For some reason, the stream key it gave me was not working, so I had to create a new one. That's the reason why we were a tad bit late.
I have a question, though. Why is everybody widescreen, but Mike is a square?
Because that's the way his camera is.
Because I don't have a high-definition camera unlike everybody else.
Ah, okay.
What do you use, an eyesight?
No, I'm using some crappy piece of junk Logitech.
So,
Yeah, eyesight for at least we're eyesight 720p.
yeah. So, I mean, that's the only reason
No,
why.
this thing's probably worse than an eyesight 720p.
If
It's like 2.1 megapixels or something like that. It does like 800 by 600.
If you look at his box
It's-
on OBS, it's the same size as everybody else's.
Is my frame rate complete garbage right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, even on Skype it is, so it's kind of...
So are you.
Yeah, but my audio...
Oh, yeah, your audio is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can hear you. You should be seen and not heard.
All right, guys. Well, tonight we got a bunch of topics to get through. And as you notice, we got 2 guests tonight. We have Christian, so say hi, Christian.
Hello.
And it's 3 a.m. in the morning for him, so it's like very early in the morning.
Is it?
Is it? Yeah.
No, it's 2 a.m.
2? Okay. Somebody said it was 3 a.m., so I was going by what they said.
Late
Was
is
it earlier? Or
it's late.
And we have Dan from Low End Mac here as well. So we got a couple of topics we're going to have them in. But you guys are welcome to talk about all of our topics tonight. So we're going to start going through these, I guess.
Yep.
First off, out the chute here. Last week we were talking about naming our computers, and Jay had no names for his computers. So apparently he came up with some names. So let's hear it, Jay.
Well, I'm not going to list all the names, but I have decided after we talked about it that it might be fun to try it out. It's not permanent, but I'm trying it out. So I went with the X-Files team. My Mac Pro is Mulder, my wife's computer is Scully, the server is Langley, and even my time capsule and airport have a name.
Who's Kurt?
Okay, weren't we talking about this off Mac Yak about that, saying you should name it X-Files?
Yeah, so it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it completely messed up my network because now all my backups stopped working because it's no longer looking for primary server dot local. It's looking for Langley dot primary server. It's all messed up, but I fixed all that, and I'm gonna try it out for a little while. It is pretty convenient when I'm browsing the network, so I might keep it around.
It is convenient because when you see it in the Finder window, especially if you have a bunch of computers, you could go. Because especially a lot of people name their stuff the same name, and you look at it, you're like, okay, is that the right computer or not? So having names helps.
Yeah, let me see. I don't think I've put anything creative in there yet. The Unreal Tournament server is called Skinner.
Skinner.
Yep.
Okay, why?
Have you ever watched the X Files?
Rarely. I watched them years ago.
All right, let's move on. There's no talking about.
All right. Well, touching back on another topic, who tested their UPSs last week after we went and did that topic last week? So it looks
I
like
did.
Jay did. I didn't, unfortunately, so I still haven't tested it.
I replaced a battery.
Oh, did you?
Well, I guess that's something.
I feel special. Sorry.
Well, I know that mine would fail either way, so I basically use them for surge protection.
Well, yours was failing before we even
Not
came on
for
tonight.
anything else. Huh?
Yours was beeping at us before we even came on tonight.
Oh, I know, because I had to test that one PC I've been building.
That his UPS is not powerful enough for.
When
Well, I
this
don't see,
when this Mac Pro is at full tilt rendering video, it kicks the UPS alarm on. It can't even control the Mac Pro.
So you need to get a bigger. That means you need to get a bigger UPS.
Yeah, I know. I'm cheap.
So anybody else in the comments there, did they do their testing also after we did that show last week?
I don't see anyone
I
speaking up.
haven't heard anybody speaking up, so
Everybody been lazy.
I'm telling you. You guys need to get on that keyboard and start chatting. If you're not chatting, we think we're boring then, so.
Even though I knew the outcome, I tested all my UPSs. Of course, the one next to my Mac Pro immediately shut off as soon as I unplugged it because there's way too much on it. The one for the Unreal Tournament server and the Switch and the Wi-Fi worked fine. The one downstairs for the server and all the server hard drives worked fine. The one for the Xserve shut off immediately. And the one for my modem and firewall works fine as well.
Well, yeah, that's barely any draw. In fact, I bet you your modem would stay on for a couple of hours. The battery backup.
Oh, at least that thing is huge.
Yeah.
What kind of firewall you running there, Jay?
Sorry?
What kind of firewall are you running?
I'm running a Meraki firewall. It's a
Yeah.
Cisco sub-brand. It's pretty good.
A lot of the home smaller office installs, you can use the ASA 5505 is a pretty good one for a small office as well.
I might switch back to Zywall. I've always been pretty happy with them. There's a lot more work configuring it the old school way, but it gets the job done. And
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I have a lot of tinkering to do.
Yep.
First on my list is getting better UPSs, though.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into our next topic. We just wanted to visit on those two a little bit from last week to see if anybody actually was paying attention to us last week. So our first main topic tonight is, what are your favorite hard drive / SSD brands? And how do we pick drives to purchase? I'm going to let Jay go on this one, start off with this one.
Oh,
As long as it's not OWC, right?
I was about to say, as long as it's not OWC, of course. And I favor, well, it depends on the model. I will go with Western Digital if it's a Western Digital green or purple. I will not touch Western Digital black or blue, because in my experience, they suck. Seagate, it varies. Their NAS drives are generally pretty good, 4 terabytes and up. And solid state, I exclusively go with Crucial.
Well, I actually have a question there for you on the hard drives, Jay, because you might know the answer to this. I've got a couple of hard drives, and this is one of them. It's a Western Digital Green, 1 terabyte, that I've tried to put in my Xserve 3.1. It will not recognize this disk. So I thought the sled was bad. So I put the drive that does work in it into that same sled that this one was in, and it boots up fine. So the only option I can come up with is that, but this one actually works fine in my Mac Pro. So I know the drive is fine. I know this.
So it is a SATA 2 drive then?
It probably it might not be. It might not be backwards compatible.
Yeah, that could be it.
Okay. That's
Well, there might be a jumper on it, GT. You can.
Well, there
use
is
to,
jumpers
force it
for-
to a
yeah.
slower- just look it up, see if you can jumper out to a slower.
Well, it says
setting.
here, jumpered pins 1 and 2 enables spread spectrum clocking. Jumpered pins 3 and 4 enables power up and standby, and jumpered pins 5 and 6 enables 1.5 gigabyte PHY.
Well, the 1.5 would be SATA 1 speeds.
So I should try that then, and maybe it'll work.
It's
Yeah,
worth the
but
job.
it'll be slower.
Huh?
It will be slower, but yeah, it might work.
I have to try it because I've been doing everything I can to figure out why that drive won't work in there. So
I
Yeah,
mean, it
some
won't be that much
G5s have
slower.
that problem with newer drives.
I mean, a lot of people don't like Western Digital Green because they're slower. But dude, I run half the house. I run my Plex server off of greens. I run my backups off of greens. I run my security cameras on purples. Well, they are faster, but everything I do on the Western Digital Green is fast enough because it's not a low speed. It's a variable speed. It can go as high as 7,200 RPM. It just mostly doesn't, unless you demand more.
speed
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
In my experience, greens are all 5400 for the ones I've gotten, and they even used them in time capsules for a long time. I pulled one out of the time capsule. It's 5400. It's just slow as heck. I still use them.
I love them, and they run pretty cool.
Yeah, because they're more power efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, what I use
go ahead.
when I am interested in a reliable drive for an SSD, I either go with Samsung or Crucial, depending on the performance I need and the price range. But when I'm just building something, I go for the highest reviewed for the cheapest price for an SSD. So if I'm building a random Mac that I know I won't be using a whole lot, I go with something weird. Kingstons are pretty good. I have a few Kingstons too.
These are
But-
super cheap.
Oh yeah,
not,
they're nice.
not the fastest, but they're super cheap.
But like for my 2008 MacBook Pro, I put a base key Chinese SSD in it, and I thought that thing was going to be crap. I'll tell you what, that is a good SSD. It's kind of shocking. And with hard drives, I tend to stick with either A, whatever I can get for free, or B, anything that's not a WD Blue. And I usually buy Seagates. Most of my main systems run Seagates. So that's what I go for.
Well, I'm about like you there, Grooty. I go for what I can get my hands on at the time and money-wise cost, because to be honest with you, a lot of these, my books and stuff like that, the external hard drives and stuff, those are, I think, the Western Digital Greens. A lot of them are in those, and they work really well for that. I have a couple of those my books around, and I use them as data, external data storage on my airport.
I just thought of something. Seagate stopped making greens, by the way. I mean, Western Digital.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Yes,
they
sir.
stopped them about 2 years ago. I think they replaced them with just purple or red. I can't remember which.
I think red is NAS optimized. Purple is for security cameras.
Yeah.
Lots of in and out streams. So
Well, yeah.
I
I
hope
guess-
they have different alternatives. I'm not switching to
Well,
blue.
I mean, on my
No
Mac
way.
Pro here, I have 2 SSDs, and they're both boot drives only. One is a Windows drive, and one is a OS X drive. The other 4 drives, or other 3 drives in here, are spinners, and those are just data drives. So I don't care if they're slow or not. You know, a lot of people think that the Mac Pro, with using spinner drives in the sleds, is going to be slow, but for data purposes, it works perfect. My Mac Pro boots up in about 15 seconds using an SSD in the very first bay. You know, so to be honest with you, a lot of people talk about, the M2 drives and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I'm not really needing one of those yet. I don't need super fast boot times.
Me neither. It's, boot times in general are a completely useless metric. Like if you restart your Mac 50 times a day, sure. How
But
fast
who's
it starts
doing
up is nobody.
Exactly.
So, my Mac starts up in 0.5 seconds.
So-
Okay, cool. Mine takes 5 minutes. I'm still going to be able to work.
Yeah,
all day long.
Exactly. I mean,
As long as you're not in a rush and need something done right then and there, when you're turning it on, it doesn't matter how long it takes to boot up.
yeah.
No.
And like I said, my Mac Pro here, it's a 2009 4,1, and it boots up in about 10 to 15 seconds once I hit the bong. Now, it takes longer for me to get the post bong than it does for it to boot up.
My 4,1 takes about 3.5 to 4 minutes.
Are
to
you on a
boot up.
spinner?
Well, I'm on an SSHD. It should be doing it through the SSD part, but there's a lot to load and stuff.
I was gonna say, because mine boots up quick, and I don't shut it off that often though. I mean, like Jay, I run a Plex server on here. In fact, 2 of the hard drives are rated in there. And I know that Mac OS today doesn't support rating hard drives, software rating. But if you do it, in a lower version of Mac OS and then transfer it over, it works fine.
You can still create RAIDs and use them. You just can't boot from them
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, the problem I have with it, and I noticed that those 2 drives that are rated together, when I pull up about my Mac, it won't show those in the storage tab. It does not show that one in the storage tab. It shows my boot drive. It shows the Windows boot drive, which is an SSD as well. And that one's actually in the bottom optical drive bay. That's what I'm using in the bottom optical.
That's odd.
Then my first data spinner is a 1.5 terabyte, and that one actually shows up in About My Mac. But the 2 that are actual rated together don't show up. Now it will show up in the disk utility, but it will not show up and they show it in the disk utility as 2 separate disks, but it's kind of grayed out where it's showing it as a RAID, So, yeah.
Weird.
It's weird, but
What about you, Christian? What is your hard drive situation?
Huh? Mine?
he's probably got tons of big ones.
Well, there's kind of a mix of drives. I have the WED Blacks, 2 terabyte drives for a couple of the servers I have running. And then there's a mixture of larger drives for the file servers, the database servers, backups, all that kind of stuff. Expensive, but
No preferred brands?
no, as long as they work, all great.
All right.
Jay's like, as long as it's not OWC.
Yeah, right.
I don't even think
Only
do they
OWC.
even make a hard drive?
Yeah, they do. They make SSDs.
Oh,
Don't they just slap their like brand on some China
Yeah,
drive?
I'd say they're probably Samsungs with OWC slapped on them.
That's all right. Jay's like, if it doesn't matter what's slapped on it, it's crap.
I just got acid reflux just thinking about OWC. What about you, Dan?
I like the. Any of you guys have access to Micro Center near you?
No.
Jay does.
I have one. I've been smart enough not to visit it yet, though.
I love going there. I visit them a lot here in Columbus. They have a budget brand that's their house brand. It's called Inland Professional, and those are incredible price and very good performance. I mean, they're not top of the line, but if you're using a Mac Mini for like a media streamer or just for data, they're plenty fast, and they I haven't had a problem with one. So you get a terabyte for about $80, I think, and then the 500 gigs, they're 480. They go, I think, 240, 480, 960. But the 480s are like $50, and the 960s are like 80. For $50, I usually put the 480s in, and that's plenty for my needs, and they're fast and cheap.
Sweet.
Nice.
I might have to go check them out now. There's one about 2 minutes from my house.
Yeah, it looks like an old one too. They have like a rainbow Apple logo and stuff on the front of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the newer packages are like green. The Inland Professional are like a green box, and it's cheap.
Now the ones I have in my
I always figured if I go to Micro Center, I'm gonna go broke, so I haven't gone near it yet. Kind of like IKEA in that regard. I do not go near an IKEA because I'll go broke.
because you love IKEA that much.
Well,
huh?
IKEA is how I built my computer table, and I'll tell you what, that was great until it started sagging.
Well, when you put a ton of weight on it, it's not meant to hold a ton.
Not meant for an eMac.
I
No.
only had I only had one semi-collapse on me. It's not that big of a deal.
And we have, let's see, we got Brock saying Western Digital, Garrett, Western Digital internal, Seagate external. Steve uses Crucial and Samsung SSDs. And a bunch of Western Digital greens in
Yeah.
Synology.
Now, here's a funny thing. In my
Nobody is saying Hitachi.
my Xserve RAID,
Nobody.
I have
HGST.
these are IDE drives,
Yeah.
but they're Seagate Barracudas. And these are actually have been in there probably, they've got like about 14,000 hour cycles on them and stuff. And they're still running good. I've had one drive failure so far out of 14.
Are those the drives with the big metal bottom plate on it?
Yes.
Yeah, I got a bunch of those too. They are heavy.
But they last forever though. I mean, they're only 750 gigabytes each, but they're Apple branded too. They actually have an Apple logo on the label, so they actually came with the.
You know what that means? Someone at some point overpaid a lot for those.
And you know what? I bet you if I could sell one, I could get them to overpay for it because it has an Apple logo.
Oh yeah, Apple logo. Yeah.
750 gig was the biggest IDE, wasn't it?
No, they made it up to 750.
That's what I said. 750 gigabyte IDE.
I don't think I ever made a terabyte IDE. I think it was 750 was the biggest.
Now Jay has actually got an Xserve RAID where he put 1 terabyte drives in, didn't you? SATA drives.
Yeah, but those are all SATA drives.
But you had to put a SATA adapter in each one of them to make it work, and it had to be the smaller drives, not the 5 1/4 or the 3.5.
2.5 inch.
Yeah.
But it's working really well.
Jay, you mentioned Hitachi drives. I've had a few of those. They're pretty good. I think they don't make them anymore, though. Western Digital bought them out years ago, but finally killed them off in 2018. HGST was a pretty good drive company, in my opinion.
They were fairly reliable, but they were nothing special. They were not the fastest
Yeah.
drive. They were not, they were kind of like Western Digital Blue.
They
just
were a
basic
good
drive.
budget option.
Yeah, that's why they put them in all the Macs,
Yeah.
Charge top dollar for an iMac and put one of those drives in. Excuse me. And
Those
what about you,
IBM
Mike?
ones were the worst. The Death Star.
Mike, how about you now?
I forgot the question. What am I using for
Very good.
SSDs? All of my SSDs are PNYs.
Those are
Except
actually
for one.
decent.
I think I have one Samsung. Or no, I have two Samsungs in my MacBooks. But other than that, everything else is PNY. I've just had real good success with them. I've been using PNY products for a very long time. So, As for my hard drives, I do not use Seagates any longer after my last debacle with one. So I got all Western Digital, and I have a bunch of blacks and one green. So, and I have a bunch of those Dell drives too, which are just actually Western Digitals.
Oh, you talking about like these?
Well,
Yeah, those are Western Digitals.
Oh, are they?
yeah, I run.
Or no, I'm sorry. They're Seagates.
I was gonna say it looks.
Yeah, they're Seagates. But they're most of those are actually better than your average Seagate drive because they're for servers. But I also have my server actually has a bunch of Hitachi 1 terabyte hard
But
drives.
dude, it's a Dell.
Dude, it still sucks.
You got to be old to know that commercial.
Damn.
And now
Well,
a
back in the day-
follow-up question. How do you pick your hard drives? Let's say you're in the market for a new drive. You need one, and you need to buy it, whether it's used or new. How do you pick a drive? I know Grooty picks whatever is free or cheap.
Whatever's laying on the ground.
I'll kick it off. I typically take my hard drives very seriously, way more serious than I should. And I always rely on the Backblaze quarterly report that they put out. If you're not familiar with it, Backblaze is a cloud storage company. They use thousands of hard drives for their storage pods. And they've started, a couple of years ago, they started keeping statistics per hard drive, per size, per brand, and per model. And now they have a quarterly kind of spreadsheet that they release that shows how reliable their drives are. And I use that report to go shop for new hard drives. And it hasn't let me down yet.
Oh, that's good. I'll have to go take a look at that.
And their least reliable hard drive is a Seagate.
Yep.
I've heard that mentioned many, many times before, that Seagate is probably the worst offender of being the most, unreliable.
I've never had problems.
Jay, wasn't it Hitachi that was one of their better ones?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And they stopped using Western Digital, not because they hate them, but it was a cost-saving measure. With Western Digital... Hi, Rocky.
Well, if running a data
expensive.
center.
Compared to other brands, Western Digital is one of the more expensive brands. So that's why they stopped using them. But, Seagate doesn't do too well.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with Seagates. In fact, I swore by Maxter until I had a bunch of old Maxter, and Maxter's been dead for 10, 15 years now?
Something like that.
Yeah. I had a bunch of old Maxter drives that were running great. The very first year my channel started back up, and all of a sudden they all died on me. I mean, they died. There was no recovering them. And at that same time, I lost a bunch of WD Blues, too. That's when I swore off WD Blue, too. It's just Seagate. I haven't had one problem with a Seagate yet.
Those Maxters are bad. I've had several of those fail.
Well, I've always heard of any Maxter that was smaller than 320 gig are basically bulletproof. I have a lot of smaller than 320 gigs in my vintage Macs that still run like they're brand new. So
You're right about that, actually. It was the larger ones because I had several 160 gigs. Those are rock solid, the 160s.
Well, I mean, if you guys,
I think
Go
Maxtor
ahead.
got bought out by Seagate, actually.
oh, did they?
yeah, I think they were.
So that's why Seagate
Oh,
started
he's right
sucking in, right?
Right. But no, and Seagate, I think, just basically killed them off after they bought them. I don't even think used their technology in their drives.
Well, I mean, you guys probably don't remember a lot, especially. I mean, Mike might remember the day back in the day when I first got my first computer. The very first hard drive I ever had in it was an MFM 10 megabyte hard drive. Okay, and this thing was 5 1/4 inches. It took up 2 floppy drive bays. That's how it was, double width. But man, those things were noisy.
ST506.
And in order to use them, you actually had to go in and put the number of cylinders, the number of heads. I mean, it was all kind of stuff you had. In fact, I still got a book. It's in my closet, as a matter of fact. I printed off just about every hard drive that they had at the time. I printed off on a dot matrix printer all the settings for every hard drive available at the time back then. Because back then, like I said, I used to play around a lot with those hard drives, and you had to actually physically put in those into the BIOS, all the parameters, or it would not work. And MFMs were very notorious too, where that's where the old term low-level format came in, because on MFM drives you had to low-level format them in order for them to properly work. You don't have to do that nowadays in some of the newer ones, but back in the day, you had to low-level format those things.
Actually, if you tried to do it on newer ones, most of the time it will kill the drive. So don't even try it on the newer ones.
Well, I don't even think you can. I mean, the software to do it now is so old.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, here. I got something
What's
for
that?
you.
Oh! It sounds like a SCSI.
No, it's a Seagate ST225.
Is that an MFM? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are loud.
That's how loud they were. And that was a half height drive, 5 1/4 inch, 20 megabytes.
I used to, like I said, I had one that was a full height.
The things took like 5 minutes just to spin up and they only ran at 3,600 RPMs.
But
well, the earlier ones.
But
then they got up to 4,200.
But back in the day, that was super fast.
And that was $10,000. Now I think, I think it was like $2,800 for the 20 meg hard drive in my parents' IBM XT, and that was a Seagate ST225.
Yeah. But I mean, those things were pretty reliable, though. I mean, they would keep going and going and going.
Well, half of those things probably still work today.
I mean, you got IDE basically took over for MFM, okay, and then IDE actually started becoming a little more unreliable, and people started bitching at the hard drive makers for it because they sucked.
Well, it's because they're trying to shove more data in the same footprint.
Yep.
Instead of making the drive bigger, they made everything else smaller, and I think that's why a lot of drives, especially the IDE drives, got so unreliable towards the end of their lifespan because the technology just wasn't there to make them reliable. And that's, you guys were talking about like Mac store drives and stuff, anything over like 160 gigs or 300 some gigs. It's just the more capacity you have, the smaller everything has to be. And I don't think a lot of the companies just had the technology at the time.
Well, yeah, and you're right, though. I think that they weren't changing the platters up much. The platters were still the same size. They were making the heads smaller, and it was just making it more unreliable. So, Rocky, you missed the first part of this. So, what is your favorite hard drive brand or SSD brand?
Well, hard drive, I still go with Seagate. That's my favorite. I've had a lot of trouble with Western Digital drives, even though one of my systems is still using Western Digital. They seem to be extremely unreliable for me. I've literally had one out of all my years of buying them ever fail on me, a Seagate. And that was after 6-7 years of use and hard use, not like light use. So, but yeah, that's my favorite. Now, when it comes to SSDs, my preferential favorite SSD is the Samsung. I prefer theirs, but I tend to buy the SanDisk or PNY just for price point. Is the main reason on that one.
Mike?
But
looks like he muted his mic. Okay.
I did mute my mic because somebody's being annoying in the background.
Don't talk about your girlfriend that way.
All right, guys. Any more on hard drives before we move on?
Yes. Don't buy OWC.
I knew he was going to say that.
Don't buy OWC. Yeah.
You remember those old drives in the late 90s, like, what is it, Quantum Bigfoot?
Oh, yeah.
Quantum Fireball.
The 5 and the
I had
525.
Fireball, I had Mac Store, and I loved all of them.
Those Quantum Fireballs, they were earliest IDE drives. They also cross-branded. That brand carried over. They had SCSI that were Quantum Fireball, and they continued with the early IDE drives.
I have a stack
I don't
of
have any of those
Fireballs
ever letting me down.
somewhere.
Yep.
Mac Store, I liked Mac Store up to 20 gigs. After 20 gigs, they became unreliable junk. But the older ones, 10 gig, 12 gig, 6 gigs, 9 gigs, indestructible. They still work today.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 6 gigs still work pretty fine. I have them in storage, but they still work.
It's funny. I mean, some of you probably had hard drives in the megabytes instead of gigabytes. My first was a 6 gigabyte Mac Store.
Well, while you were gone, we were talking about that. I was talking about MFM drives. I had my first one was a 10 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah. I think my dad bought a 40 megabyte external drive for his Atari. It cost like $1,000. It's crazy. And now I have files that would not even fit on my original hard drive.
Oh, I know. You know, a single PowerPoint file won't even fit on there anymore. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our next topic here. And this is the one we brought Christian on tonight for. Software piracy. We're going to talk about what we think constitutes piracy. What we think, not what the legal definition is, I guess, and stuff like that. So, Christian, what is your view on software piracy? Since you run Macintosh Garden, of course.
It's kind of
no pressure.
Thank you. Well, I see it a little bit differently since it's abandoned software and it's not new software that you can buy in stores or purchase digitally today. So it's a pretty big gray area when it comes to software piracy, at least for me. So
now,
what do you want to know?
You have Macintosh Garden focuses primarily on abandonware, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes if you get those takedown notices from a company, says, hey, you have our software, we don't want you to do that. Is that because they're still selling it, or does that even happen?
Well, the times we get those letters, it's because they still own the IP. So it's just that. So they don't want the software out there, I guess.
Oh. Even though it's no longer being sold.
It's not being sold. You can't find it in a bargain bin. You can't find it online. Closest would probably be Craigslist in America, eBay, that kind of stuff.
That's great.
But the company still owns the IP, so you can't trade it or whatever they have in their terms of agreement.
Yeah, I think that's kind of. I think companies that do that, that don't sell it anymore, and still don't want you to put it out there. It's like, dude, you're basically giving them free advertisement for their company, especially if they're still around. I mean, you might have some software that the company's no longer even in existence, but if they still own the IP, but yet they're not selling this particular version or software, then basically you're giving them free advertising.
Yeah, companies don't see it that way. It's like we see today with the old products getting re-releases because old people, nostalgia, that kind of stuff.
Well, I know a lot of like
GOG and
like Nintendo and stuff. They've got the retro games and stuff out there, and they go after a lot of these people for selling.
Nintendo is very anal about all their games in their library.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They don't
Well,
like.
I share. I'm pretty much on the same page. If a company is still selling it, and you download it somewhere else without paying the company, it's piracy.
Yeah.
If a company no longer sells it, or any of their licensed outlets, they no longer sell it, I consider it abandonware and free game.
Yep.
For me,
That's
that's very black and white.
That's why Snow Leopard through Mountain Lion, you can't legally download.
Yep.
Unless you already own it.
Apple still sells Snow Leopard, don't they?
Yeah.
$20, and you get a digital key.
Yeah.
So it gets added to your account when you set it up.
Even though I think everybody has copies of Snow Leopard to Mountain Lion, I mean, it's only 3 different versions right there. So.
Well, I'll admit I did actually buy Lion for my Mac Pro.
Well, I actually got lucky. I did not have to buy Mountain Lion because when Apple invited me to be the Appleseed tester, I was testing Mountain Lion, and once they got done with the testing, they said all the beta testers at the time, this is before they came out with the public beta test, they said that you guys get it for free. It was only like $20 at the time, but I mean, still, I bought Lion, but I didn't buy Mountain Lion, but I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I no longer see Snow Leopard available for sale.
You're kidding.
I pull it up on
It's
the way
still away.
back. On the way back,
I think it's still
the last
safe.
the last
They have
time
hidden
had
it.
it was September 21st.
Hmm.
And now when I go to that link, it redirects to the refurbished store.
Really? So maybe Apple's changed their tune and put that in the.
I don't know. I'll put the link in the chat. You all can try it.
Yeah, it's going straight to the refurbished store. They might
Now-
have stopped selling it.
I thought
Victory.
there was some kind of gray zone with Apple that if you own and it's on a Mac and you acquire the software, the Mac OS, that because you own a Mac, then you are legally able to use any version of Mac OS that you get your hands on it that is a legitimate copy from Apple.
Okay, that brings us up to our next point there, Rocky. You kind of made a good segue into that. Okay.
By
Is
the way,
loading-
they're still selling Lion and Mountain
Yeah.
Lion.
Is loading Mac OS onto an unsupported Mac considered piracy? That's our next question here. So, because what you just said is if you buy the hardware, just because you bought the hardware, does that mean that, like for instance, my Mac Pro here is not Catalina is not supported on it? Does that mean that I can run Catalina on it with the patcher legally?
According to Apple, yes, you can.
No.
Because they set it up on stage when they were touting about Dustitude 1's patcher and all that good stuff. And, they're saying that they want to,
Where
they
was
want to
this? 'Cause
support that in the community.
Where did you see
That
that?
was like, it was one of the Apple reps. I thought it was,
I don't know
couple
if they
keynotes
said it on
ago.
stage, but I do remember Apple did talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where it was.
Okay, somebody's got to do some research on that and find a link because I want to see that. Because
I thought you did see it
No.
because we had DOS Dude on not too long after that.
Hey, Mike, if you're talking, your mic is still muted.
Yeah, I just realized that. Okay. But anyway, I was trying to, and I was starting to get pissed off because everybody just kept talking. Oh crap, my mic's muted. First of all, it can't be piracy because piracy is the theft of commercial software. First of all, you can't steal something that's free. Okay? So, first of all, you cannot pirate any version of Mac OS from Mavericks to Catalina because it's free. So, as long as you're running it on an Apple computer,
exactly,
made by Apple Corporation, made in China, and
or made in Austin, Texas.
I don't think. I mean, yes, they probably. I'm sure they probably have some vague verbiage in the terms of service, but truthfully, I don't think Apple's going to give two craps about you running Catalina on a 5.1 Mac Pro. They're probably going to be thrilled that you're running Catalina on a 5.1 Mac Pro, you know, because at least you're running it on an Apple system and not a Hackintosh. Now, if you're using it on a Hackintosh, it's still not piracy. Although it could be void the software.
I would,
but it's definitely against the terms.
I would
of service.
disagree
Were
because
you saying all this while your microphone was muted?
What?
I actually would disagree with you, Mike.
You were saying all that while your mic was muted? That's a lot.
Yeah. But I would disagree with you, Mike, on that point because if you're running it not on a Macintosh, if you're violating the terms of service, that is actual piracy, pretty much.
I agree.
You know,
that would be actual piracy.
Yeah. If Apple's terms of service says you must run this on this particular hardware or or whatnot, then otherwise it is piracy.
Yeah.
So which
I
one
do
of us
not
is going to
subscribe
go
to that definition of piracy.
Service?
If you can afford an Apple system, you probably can afford the software too. So there's no reason to pirate anything there, is there?
Exactly. I would agree with Christian on that. But putting it on a non-Apple system, that's where I would consider it piracy. It was never designed for non-Apple hardware.
I don't agree with that. I'm with Mike.
So
But it's not in the classic terms, and we're talking old school because I'm old, of piracy. It's not theft of commercial software because you can't steal something that's free.
Well, zero.
it doesn't matter if it's free or not. I mean, it was
Yes,
made.
it is. It
well,
is
technically, it's not free because guess what? You're paying for it when you buy that Apple hardware.
No, because it's not itemized out onto the hardware when you purchase it.
Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can go to Apple and get a free copy of Mojave. They're not going to ask you what you're putting on. You don't have to provide your serial number to get a copy of it.
No, that is actually not true there, Mike. You actually have to have a Mac
Really?
OS system to actually download Mojave legally.
Yeah, but it is free. And I can do internet recovery on any Mac that supports it and download the latest
and
software.
that's fine.
for
That's
free.
what I'm talking. That's fine. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about someone making a PC and trying to put Mac OS on it.
Well, that's just a clear violation of the terms of service. It still doesn't constitute piracy.
I agree.
Piracy
You just get
is
zero. You get no support.
Okay, first of all, if you really want to get down into it, okay, piracy is actually a crime. Software piracy is actually, at least in Pennsylvania, it's a class 3 felony.
Wow.
So, because it's depending on the dollar value of the software that you're pirating, violating Apple's terms of service isn't criminal. It's a civil thing. Yeah, if
Apple
violate
can
it
still
and they
sue
get
your ass.
pissed off enough, a bunch of lawyers.
Yeah.
But you're not going to end up in prison. See, this is the This is what I'm saying. That's the difference between piracy and just violating the terms of service.
I agree.
One gets you in jail, and the other one just pisses a bunch of people off.
Well, I don't know. There's been some pirates out there that haven't gone
One
to
of your
jail.
buddies with Bubba.
So
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Pirates.
That's why they were originally called software pirates, because they steal the software and give it to people who don't want to pay for it.
Exactly.
Or can't pay for it.
And I can guarantee you, every one of us on this call right now has at least one pirated version of something.
Oh,
on their
I'm
computer.
not going to deny that. But
for what it is, because nobody ever knows who's listening.
exactly.
But I'm sorry, every person in the world has something pirated somewhere. And the most pirated software in the world is freaking Microsoft Windows.
Yes.
Because who wants to pay $2.99 for that crap?
I agree with you on that
Actually,
one.
fun fact about Microsoft, they don't mind individuals pirating their software. They only care when like cartels do it.
And I will say that is actually kind of decent of them. If you're pirating some, like, just take Windows 7 for example. All right, and trust me, they'll find out you're pirating it. If you pirate Windows 7 on your computer, they'll do weird things to annoy you, but they won't lock you out of the system. It's not like Windows XP. They won't lock you out. You can still use almost every single feature of the operating system perfectly.
That's why you download.
Remind you and make you feel guilty every day. This is a pirated version of Windows, you bastard. And then all you see is a black desktop all the time. You can't set a desktop. That's like the most annoying thing. You can't set a background. But that's
Windows
it. That's all,
Apple do that.
all they do.
Service Pack 1, the Windows loader, and you turn off the automatic updates, and you're fine with that.
Oh, yeah. Spot guys, all the activation. Yeah, I remember doing that. But, I mean, so, yeah, there when we're looking at businesses that want to pirate software. You know, like, let's say I have 50 computers at work and I'm pirating Microsoft Office. Yeah, they're going to get pissed off.
Oh,
I'm gonna throw you in jail.
You know,
But,
me having an illicit copy of something on my computer really isn't. It's going to annoy them. I'm going to be a thorn in their side. They could have gotten more money out of me, but truthfully, in the end, they're not going to worry about it.
Well, I mean,
And in the long run, neither would Apple.
yeah, as far as Office goes, I actually have a legal copy of Office, but I only pay like $10 for it. So
I have a legal copy of Office too. It's just 10 years old.
I have Office 97. Best Office ever. Probably.
Oh my god!
I'm one of the
97?
spenders buying Office 365. I'm paying my $100 a year.
I
Yeah,
miss
I pay that too.
I miss that stupid little paperclip on my desktop.
oh,
I
Flippy.
actually like Flippy.
I did too. I thought he was funny.
Yeah, I
Truthfully.
Did the Mac I don't remember if I have
No,
it. I
the
have
Mac
Office
version
98
didn't
for
have
Mac. Oh, I didn't have
The Mac version had the little Macintosh with the feet. It looked like the Banana Junior from Bloom County. He was kind of funny too because he used to have words and stuff that would go across the screen. So
Oh god, that's great.
But
I
can
will
we
say
circle,
Office 365,
can we circle
guys,
back for a second?
they actually now let you share with family members, which is kind of cool. Like my sister needed a copy of Office, so all she had to do is create a Microsoft account, and I was allowed to share it with her legitimately. It just uses up one of my 5 licenses, so it's totally legit. It's they've loosened the reins on some of that, so it's
well,
kind of
in
nice.
the chat here, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Axiomatic Raptor.
Just say Nick.
Huh? Nick. Okay.
No,
Says I
Yeah.
will always pirate. I've been pirating since 2006. Here's the thing, though, Nick, is that you're one person. I think what Rocky was talking about earlier is when these big companies go in there and take a copy of Microsoft Windows and put it on thousands of workstations in their company.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And not paying
or the cartel is selling
Yeah.
a pirated
and
version.
not paying a license fee for that.
Yeah, someone's going to prison then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the ones they worry
Somebody's
about.
gonna be buddying
because
up with
If
Bubba.
you're talking about
Those
thousands,
Microsoft tech support people in India,
Oh,
they
yeah.
probably run legit Windows systems.
You won't be going to a resort. You'll be going to a federal economy in the you-know-what prison.
Gosh. You know, I wonder if Apple, if they were smart, they would, actually sell Mac OS to run on a PC.
I don't think that's ever going to happen again. Remember, Steve Jobs stopped.
Then they could call it pirating.
But Steve Jobs stopped that when he got rid of the clones.
They can't. I don't think they can call a Macintosh pirating, even though it's not on Apple hardware. I don't think they can call it pirating just because they don't sell Mac OS. I agree with Mike and Jay on that one.
If you even if you're going down to a hardware standpoint, the only Apple-specific part in a Macintosh is the BIOS. Other than that, just about every other component in a Macintosh system is an off-the-shelf part, because the processors are Intel, so most of the architecture is Intel. Yeah. So,
unless you go back to the PowerPC, then it's pretty much Apple.
Well,
didn't somebody get that hacked onto a computer too at some point?
What's that?
The
old
PowerPC
version
system that was sold for the PowerPC was sold. It had a price tag.
Oh yeah.
So,
does that mean that we're all pirating
the
on
original
our
copies,
old G series?
The original versions of the system software up until System 7.1 were free. When System 7.6 came out, it went to, I think it was $39. Would you shut up, you little black shit? You're pissing me off. Okay, so starting at System 7.6, they started selling, it was either $29 or $49, I can't remember. And up until OS 10.7, 10.8, it cost some type of money. So I think that was, a lot of that had to do with Apple's financial problems. They figured, well, we're going to make a buck wherever we can, and the original iPod and iPhone OSs were the same way. You had to pay for every one of those updates.
I don't
version
remember that.
4.
I've never paid for an update, and I had it since 2.
On iPod Touch up until
I think it might have been now this might have been an iPod thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It was iPod.
iPhone.
Yeah,
because
I have a question. When I bought a Mac, I used to buy Macs. It's new instead of used, and I got restore discs with the operating system on it. Now, my receipt said iMac, MacBook Pro, whatever I was buying at the time. It did not say on a separate line item, Mac OS. So technically, I got my operating systems for free with that Mac.
Yeah.
So I can copy and distribute those, right?
Okay, but here's the thing, though. You got that copy because how are you going to use that Mac without an OS?
That's not
that is the
point.
point.
I did not pay. It did not pay for that software.
Okay, but how are you going to use that Mac if you did not have that OS on there?
I have other ways, but that's not the issue here. I got that software for free.
No, you didn't get it for
purchase
free.
of
It's
hardware.
actually part of the sale when you bought your computer.
They never told me
It
that.
doesn't say you can copy and redistribute it,
Yeah.
does it?
Okay, when you buy a Windows PC, I know this is Mac Yak, but if you buy a Windows PC, you get a copy of Windows on it. And you get a license.
It actually,
But it has
there's a
license
whole...
key. Mac OS
Yes.
doesn't
No,
have license
but
keys.
it's not listed in the sale receipt. It just basically says you bought this Dell or whatever it is.
Yeah, so
But
you
there
should
are
be
actual
free to
paperwork that does
distribute
say...
that CD. If it comes with a CD, you can copy it, send it out to the world, but you cannot do that with the license fee.
True. Now with actually you can distribute those restore discs and stuff, and I've never seen anybody get in trouble for that.
Actually, no. There is a
Someone
case.
just did recently.
Yes, that just happened recently. This guy was selling refurbished PCs and selling
Yeah, but he
a
passed it off as his own or as OEM. I
no.
don't remember
He
exactly.
basically copied Windows and basically put the same label, everything.
That's Windows though. That's
and
different.
They went after him, and he went to jail.
Well, yeah, that's clearly pirating the label and all that. Yeah, but
his excuse was that I'm selling these computers, with the systems that they came with. He was basically
Now that isn't.
he was
wrong.
only providing the actual CD, not CD or not keys to the software. But he still got in trouble for copying.
Interesting.
Yeah, he still got in trouble for copying the discs. He went to jail.
I don't remember seeing that, but I'm.
Because of how widely he was distributing.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, okay. But I
now-
I didn't see that. That's weird.
Okay.
Sometime between now and the 21st, Apple stopped selling 10.6. It's no longer on their website. Is it now officially abandonware?
Could be. But we know
Yeah,
but
it
now
could
we
be.
know that 9.0 and earlier is abandonware.
If you go to
Actually,
their
10.5
website and
and
you do a
earlier is
search
considered
for
abandonware.
snow
Well,
leopard,
I'm talking
the
about
only
that
thing
Apple is
comes up
officially-
Lion.
Apple has officially said that anybody could download and use 9.0 and below.
Yeah, that's been that way for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, but in a legal sense, I mean, as soon as a company stops supporting it, I mean, it's kind of gray, but it's pretty much abandonware.
Well, we going
And-
back to what Christian said earlier about people, that own the IP but don't make it anymore, right, Christian?
Yeah, and you have like Electronic Arts and other big companies. They want to make an extra buck or two. They re-release like remakes or just DOS box versions of old games or applications. I don't know, but
Sometimes
most
they
of
just
games.
don't want you to use the older version because they want you to buy the newer one, right?
Yeah, they want you to buy the new version.
And that's what I was getting at is that, I mean, Christian has had firsthand experience on this, getting takedown notices for software that is technically not supported anymore.
And I don't have the finances to battle an armada of lawyers, so there's that. But I have to respect the companies that still own IPs.
So guys out
I
there,
suppose.
if you're watching
you don't
this,
want to get the reputation, If someone sends you a takedown and you start being an ass about it, you get a pretty bad reputation. If you honor it and respect it, I think that carries some weight
Yes.
too.
and guys out there watching, if you like to use Macintosh Gardens, he does have a Patreon, and we'll put his link in the description. But if you can,
Now,
Christian, go ahead and post
that's
it in
where
the
we
chat.
get into a different area, though.
Post your Patreon
Because I want
in the
this
chat.
noted for. Yeah, there you go. But I want this noted because this goes back to Mike's point that because you can't sell some other company's software. Christian is not selling or making profit
Exactly.
off of his website. You are donating to him personally for
Upkeep.
I mean for what he's doing, but he's not selling anything.
you're paying
So you're
for
not
the
paying for a
development,
product.
for the upkeep, for the
Anything-
service.
You're paying for his electricity.
Anything I get from Patreon or private donations or any of that kind, it all goes back to the garden, the hardware, doing coding and all that kind of stuff. So basically just that.
Yeah, and if you subscribe to the $100 Patreon tier, he will shave his mustache for you. I tried it.
I have $100 one.
You should now.
$200. I will only grow.
You should have
one side.
$1,000 level to say you're stripped down and
Yeah.
do nude selfies.
Whoa, man! Whoa!
This is not Twitch, all right?
It's not a thought, right?
Sexy wallpapers.
He has lots of thoughts, but that doesn't mean that he is one.
So if you want to, Christian, go ahead and post your Patreon link in the chat there. We'll also post it in the description after this show tonight as well. It's a real good site. If you do use Macintosh Gardens, I highly suggest at least donating a little bit to him. It helps him out, keeps up the servers and everything, keeps the lights on.
Yeah, because it ain't free.
We don't need the lights on. We just need the server
And
spinning.
as a matter of fact, Christian didn't have a Patreon until we actually had him on here before on Mac Yak and convinced him to get one.
I was kind of forced.
Huh? Yeah, you were forced to get one.
Yeah, and it's just, in my opinion, it's the same as the Internet Archive. They frequently ask for donations. You get a big banner, and they need help keeping that site up too, and it's an amazing resource. And I think the same goes for Macintosh Garden. This is where I download games for my 3-year-old to play on the G4. You're gonna find that stuff.
You're not.
So I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
I think so too.
The thrift store is always a fun place too. I know you have the garden, but if you look for, you talk abandonware and old stuff, that's always a good place to look.
Well, here's the thing though, and
thrift stores
Steve would be a person to talk to about this, but he lost his voice, so he can't. That's the reason why he's not on here, but he is in the chat. But Steve, when he finds old floppy disks and stuff like that, he images those things and he uploads them to the garden. So
yeah, that's
good. It's basically an archive of old stuff that you're not going to find anymore, because a lot of those floppy disks today, if they're like 20 or 30 years old, they're so deteriorated they probably won't work anymore. And they're probably only good for maybe one run, and then they probably won't work anymore. So, you got to thank people like that are actually keeping this stuff alive. And Christian's doing a pretty damn good job of it, I think.
Yeah.
You have those special kind of people on eBay and Craigslist. It's like selling the software floppies. You don't know if they work, but they have a pretty steep price. So that's always exciting when you get software that actually works from eBay or whatever.
Well, I'm gonna tell you.
Fun fact: I have some old software with the manuals, books, and everything, actually lined up behind me on the shelf at work. I display it along with the Mac SE. So,
well, here's a funny fact.
He
makes great
said it
decoration.
in the chat, he says, "I had floppy disks die right after imaging." So there you go.
Yeah. So he's had them die. I mean, that's why you need, if you come across some stuff like that, image that stuff. And I'm going to tell you an example I had. This was years ago. I don't know if you guys remember the game called F-16 Fighting Falcon.
Yes. In fact, I've got it downstairs somewhere.
What game?
It came on like about 16 floppy disks. Okay.
What game was it again?
F-16 Fighting Falcon. It was an old Microprose game.
I remember that.
And anyways, it came on I think it was about 16 something floppies in order for you to install it. I had floppy number 6 or 7 go bad. I didn't know it till you get to that floppy. And then all of a sudden you hear this, you're like, no! And you can't install the game. And this, sites like Christian's would have been perfect for that, because I could have went and downloaded that one floppy image and installed the game. But I could never install it after that. I mean, I had played it a lot before, but I was trying to install it on the PC again. It's probably about 15 years ago. And it wouldn't install because of that one disc was bad. Nothing I could do.
Yeah. No, we definitely need sites like this. And about those people on eBay, you see them on Facebook all the time as well. Like, oh, I have this game or this set of software, including a manual and all that. The first thing I do, I don't want to buy it, because I leave that up to Steve and Mike to buy it. But I message them and I say, hey, please image this before you sell it. If it's not sealed, image this before you sell it. And after the sale, you made your money. It didn't lose its value. After the sale, upload it to the archive or the garden or anywhere. And they never do. They never do.
Well, when you're selling that software, like when I sell software and stuff to people, or used to, I ain't got the time for that now. When I did, I wasn't selling the software itself. I was, because technically, actually, it says in a lot of the copyright agreements and stuff that you get with the software, it says you cannot sell that because it's not transferable. So you're selling the physical media, you're selling the physical, like the box, the books that came with it. That's what you're selling. You're not selling the software.
I'm not opposed to people selling that ludicrous
Yeah.
prices that you see sometimes. I mean, good on you. If you can sell it, that's fine. But
Yeah.
preserve
And
it.
if you
before
enjoyed-
sell it.
Yeah, and like I enjoy showing it off. I like owning the software, just because I like the books and things. Like
Well,
this
they
is the
don't
whole,
have
whole
that
reason
anymore.
I buy
I mean,
CDs and stuff.
There's no such thing as buying a boxed game anymore, really.
True.
You
True.
know, the days of that are gone.
That's not much of a thing,
Everything's downloadable.
which is sad because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, where you can't buy a game or something and it still has the this really neat case and a neat book with it and stuff. That's not a thing
Yeah, now
anymore.
you get like a CD case.
At least not in
It's
America. Oh yeah.
Did,
Oh, the
did
CD
you
case
ever
is the best.
By the way, did you guys
where you
notice
rent
that,
software? It's bullshit.
Did you guys notice that the Mac Yak icon has an iPad?
I did notice that.
It has
just
a.
now.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Now you
like
pointed
that.
out.
I didn't notice.
Did any of you guys out there notice?
I just noticed it myself, and I made the damn thing. It's like, oh, look at it.
Wait a second. You made it. You just now noticed it.
Right?
That's great.
All right, guys. I think we've kind of beat this one down a little bit. Any other final thoughts on this, or?
No, I'm just excited to see Snow Leopard up on the Macintosh Garden tomorrow because it's abandonware now.
Shall I upload my copy?
And that figures I paid all that money for that damn thing.
Yep, I paid $20 for that disc.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? 20? Yeah, I guess it probably was.
$29.99.
Well,
Yeah.
my copy.
No, I paid $19.99.
See, my first copy of Snow
That's what I
Leopard
got.
came on the little thumb drive, the little white one that they had.
What?
Oh yeah, that's the way they distributed
By
it.
the way, what is the newest retail version of Snow Leopard? I've never gotten a disc newer than 10.6.3 or 0.4.
Yeah, that was it.
I bought.
I think it was 0.3.
Yep, because I bought it 3 years ago, and when it was still available, and it was still 10.6.3.
Huh.
Really?
Apple only shipped machine specifics after that. They like my 2011 17-inch I'm on right now, 6, and you had the Apple they provide you with a machine specific disc. If you request it, they'll send you a extra copy. But some like mine shipped with line pre-installed. So I wanted 10.6.6. I wanted Snow Leopard. You just ask them, they'll give you the machine specific.
Sweet.
All right, guys. So, kind of going. This is kind of segueing into the next topic a little bit, but updating, finding the right updates for your Mac. The question is, do you want to just max everything out?
Wait, Greg's
What?
freaking out. Hold on.
Dude, I was talking.
No, you weren't.
You weren't talking.
What
You
was
were not
going on?
talking.
I think you cut out or something, maybe.
I was saying I'm still talking about Snow Leopard. You
Oh, well,
started
we
talking.
ran out of time. Sorry, dude. Just,
No, you were. We didn't hear you. That's why I was moving on because it went quiet.
yeah, we were not
Oh,
hearing
yeah.
you.
It's like I froze
And you
up
just
on
froze again a little
stupid
bit.
internet.
I might
Well-
freeze too because I'm going mobile and out of Wi-Fi range.
All right, guys.
The
So,
way I
anyways,
get-
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Grooty.
What a
Anyway,
troll.
The way I get Snow Leopard on the later supported machines is I target disk mode with an older Mac, install it, and then update it, and then it boots right up. It's a bit of a headache. But
Well,
works.
here's another good question too. If you put Tiger, because I know Tiger still updates from Apple servers, will it still update?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anybody tested that recently since the 21st?
Oh yeah, it works.
Okay.
At least as of last week.
Well,
But
that's
maybe when they stop selling it, they pulled the plug on the updates too. Who knows?
yeah. You don't know. All right, guys. So now we're going to talk about updating your Mac hardware-wise and stuff. I see a lot of people in some of the groups like to brag about, oh, I'm running the best processor in my Mac Pro and blah, 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 or the best graphics card. And all this other stuff. What are your thoughts on upgrading your Mac? Do you like to go to the max, or do you like to just upgrade to a point where you feel comfortable with it?
Well, I kind of want to jump in there a little bit because, early on, my
a little
philosophy
bit.
is
You're
always
full jumping in there. Not a little bit.
yeah, man,
hijacking
come
the
on,
whole
I
damn
gotta
thing.
get it. There you go. But forget about it. No. So no, my thought is, I've always been this way. I do two things. One, I'm the person who will take pride in making a system optimized for what it can do and doing more with less. And then I'm also the person who I feel a computer, regardless of what it is, especially a Mac, should be refined for its purpose. Period. So you don't need to max it out if it doesn't suit the purpose that you need. I'm running dual 2.8s in my 3.1. I don't want dual 3.4s because that's just a waste of power for what I do.
Well, and
Just my
Rocky,
thoughts. That's where I go with it.
And I agree with you on that, because in my 4.1, I could run two higher processors. I think, what is that, 3.46, Jay?
Yeah.
It's the most powerful. Yeah.
I'm running
The 5690s.
Yeah, I'm running 5675s in mine, and I went on Jay's, suggestion on this, because basically anything higher than that, you're basically pulling more power, and you're basically wasting more power for doing about the same thing. My Mac Pro can turbo boost up to about 3.4. So it's like I'm getting about what those would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I only made that recommendation because I can't stand you having a faster Mac than me. But that's not the point. It is a valid. No, the chips that we currently use, watts per, what do you call that
TDP
equation?
Thermal.
Yeah. The power per watt, the consumption, it's just the best option out there. If you have to go higher, you got the 5685s, I think, the 3.33. But I upgrade my machines. Well, disclaimer, I upgrade my power PCs to the absolute max just because I geek out on it, not because I need it, but I just enjoy it. But my Mac Pro and my Intel stuff, my wife's computer, I will get the best I can possibly afford or slap together because she needs it for work. I do not make my money off my Mac Pro, so I don't need NVMe drives and all this fancy stuff people are putting in there. So I upgrade as needed.
But there's also another side to that flows with my, upgrade as far as necessary for what you're doing, is there's also a reality that, especially on like the Mac Pros and things, and even on the iMacs especially, if you don't use certain match sticks, things like that, you have mismatch, it actually hinders performance, even though like on the older ones, I can go 6 gigs. But you know what? You're going to run slower performance because you don't have it's not doing the dual. So you lose performance at the expense of getting an extra 2 gigabytes over 4 gigs. So in my respect, I go for the greater performance in that regard for what I might use that machine for, than going, I need an extra 2 gigs. Well, let me slim off a bunch of stuff.
That's the same argument as that people say with Mac Pro, for example. Like, should I get 8 sticks or should I get 6 to get that triple channel memory performance? And it's the same principle applies. You need as much RAM as you need, because triple channel might be faster, but if you run out of RAM and it starts swapping to your hard drive, you still take a massive hit.
Yep.
So in those older Macs, 6 gigs was slightly slower, because I did it on my own MacBook Pros as well. But I needed that RAM. And the performance hit of using mismatched RAM over swapping, it was worth it.
Yeah, it still is today. Basically what I do, I'm still connected, right?
Yes,
you're good.
Yep.
Double checking.
Basically, I was like dead silence. I'm like,
because we were letting you talk.
Just keep talking, everybody. He's going to start waving like crazy again.
Basically, what I do is my main systems. I just do it as much as I can afford and what I need it for. But other systems like the world's fastest. This thing's still plugged in. Like the world's fastest 2009 Mac Mini, I go balls out on, but, it depends, because my PowerPC systems, I will always just have maxed out, because when they're maxed out, they're still pretty usable today. But in their stock configurations, they're pretty slow,
They
So
suck.
I'll max those out. I'll max out project computers that I just want to do. But my main use systems, I don't always max out. If it comes to an older system like my early 2008 MacBook Pro, it's maxed out with 6 gigs of RAM and an SSD and stuff, so it's still modern enough to run all that stuff. Because I use that daily. But for like my Mac Pro, whenever I finish upgrading it, it's just going to have 48 gigs in triple and two 5680s. I'm not going to max it out to the top. That's all I'm really going to need to render with. So why go any higher than that,
And to interject, it's also depends on the time. Like right now, today in 2019, I do not need 128 gigs of RAM. But if I keep this 5.1 around for another 10 years, who knows 10 years from now, I might really, really need 128 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's like
I could use 28 gigs of RAM.
Well, that's like the new Mac Pro. It's supposed to have what, 1.5 terabytes of RAM. That is supposed to be.
And that makes me drool.
Yeah.
I would never need it, but it makes me drool just hearing
Well, if you ran like a ton of virtual machines, you would need it.
Hundreds of virtual
like in the simple Final Cut Pro stuff that I do, like a single track with an audio track and a few overlays, I don't ever fathom how I could need more than what I currently have in RAM. But, there's professional shops that have like 150 audio tracks or 3D, whatever it is people do. They might say, 1.5 terabyte. That's a little slim. I need more.
Pixar.
Yeah. And what about you, Christian?
Huh? What?
Yeah, you.
He's
Wake up.
he's starting to go to sleep.
There's a mosquito in here. It's pissing me off.
Oh, I thought you lost your mind just randomly clapping your hands.
No, he was pimp slapping that mosquito.
Pimp slap?
No pimp slapping in here.
So how do you upgrade your machines, if at all?
If at all. Old Macs, PowerPC, and 68K. I maxed them out. Mostly because I can, and performance. When it comes to the daily drivers and stuff like that, it's not required. Like my workstation that has 8 gigs of RAM, simple SSD. I don't need more.
Yeah.
All I see is Christian
Right.
looking around, watching that mosquito.
Yeah,
He probably
I'm
hears
just
it constantly now.
gonna bite. That's even worse when I go back to sleep.
So what about you guys in the chat?
And how about
there?
you, Dan?
Dan. On upgrades, I just try to stick with the solid states when I can. Like I said, it's Inland Professionals. That's like your biggest boost. And then on RAM, I'll wait to max it out. I kind of stair step it. I usually start with the mid tier, and then wait till a few years down the road, and then max it. Like this 2011 17-inch I got. It came with 4 from Apple. It was like the base config, and that's the one thing you never want to do too is buy max memory from Apple unless it's soldered to the board, and you have no choice.
Amen.
But The
Mm-hmm.
when they have it so it's socketed, you get the minimal. Then I went to 8 gigs right away. I bought on the side when I got this, and then I waited until just 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year. I finally went to 16 gigs on it, and there's no need to max it right out the gate.
17-inch.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
I
random.
need to rebuild it.
That's random.
I still love my 17-inch 2011. It's still my favorite MacBook Pro, even though the graphics.
Does your GPU still work?
Yeah, I had this logic board replaced twice. Once at a power fault and fried something, and then the second time it had the graphics card problem, and I got it replaced. And ever since now I'm on the third board. The third board was right before my Apple Care expired, sometime around 2013, mid to late 2013, I believe, or early 14.
Wow.
It was 3 years. You had the original warranty and then 2 years beyond that. So it would have been I got this in early 12. That would have been early 15, and I haven't had
Yeah,
a
but it
problem.
was still good up through like 2016. You could still get the 2011 boards repaired under that extended repair program, because I did that on a couple of them.
And I think those later boards, they who knows, maybe they got a better batch of GPUs if you want those.
No, they're still crap.
I thought they were all the same, but I mean,
Yeah,
this
they
has
are.
been reliable. I've been very lucky.
They are.
I think it's just
The guy that has the 2011 that I redid, it was a 15-inch, I think. Had a brand new board in 2016, died before 2017 ended.
Well, okay, going on this same topic, where do you get your upgrades?
Hey, we forgot Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
We forgot Mike.
But
Yeah, Mike, what do you do?
Yeah.
I choose what I got, dude.
He's still using 1,1, so.
My Mac Pros
Hey, I
always,
love Mike.
my Mac Pros all have 16 gigs of RAM. I don't know, what does mine even max out at, Jay? Is it 16 or 32?
64
Oh,
with
60.
the CPU upgrade.
No, I mean the way it is now.
I believe 48.
Oh, okay.
Which,
Yeah, I'll
which
never
Mac
get that.
Pro is it?
4,1, 2
single
point-
processor.
Oh, yeah. It might be
2.6.
48.
Yeah. So, but now on the other hand, my laptops, both my MacBooks and my MacBook Pro, they all have 8 gigs of RAM. My Mac Mini at work has 8 gigs of RAM. And for the stuff that I do on those, which is just your basic, the most basic stuff, web browsing, stuff like that, mostly watching YouTube, to be truthful with you. Now, the one at work, I run FileMaker and stuff on, because that runs my business. But truthfully, I still never found a reason to have more than 8 gigs in it. And actually, that's the only computer. That Mini is the only computer I have that actually has a spinning hard drive in it that boots. Mostly because I've been too lazy to replace it. But that's a 2012. So it's also the newest computer I own.
Yeah.
I still want a 2012 really bad.
I'll tell you what, I really like mine, but the graphics do suck.
Yeah,
That's really the only downfall of that 2012 Mini. I'll tell you what, it's awesome otherwise. For
Isn't the
what-
2012 also without a CD-ROM drive, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't have one.
The CD-ROMs are so outdated now, it's ridiculous. But
Not to
Yeah,
go
I-
off topic, but I run about 5 2012 Mac Minis. They run everything in this house. They're awesome. I love them.
I too have one. It is awesome. It's the kids kind of, they do it for the homework, and the wife uses it for office productivity. It's perfect.
So as far
Hey,
as
Yeah.
it's a great bang for your buck. I can't complain at all for what I paid for mine. So,
So as far as your upgrades, though, where do you guys go and get your parts? Because for me,
Not
yeah,
OWC.
for me, I've
Jay.
actually spent time on eBay. I think AliExpress is a good place to go. There's a bunch of different places out there you can get parts and stuff from.
screw it. I don't upgrade
Never
parts.
bought
I
an
just
Alley.
buy whole computers.
Huh?
I don't upgrade the parts. I just buy whole new computers. It's usually from Jay.
eBay, Amazon.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that just buys a new car when the ashtray is full, you know.
Or it runs out of gas.
I used now, you know, it's funny you say it because I actually used to do stuff like it. I actually went through 15 cars in like a year and a half one time. And these were all used cars, of course, not new ones.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't find the one that I really wanted. So, but now I've had my truck for 4.5 years. It's got 331,000 miles on it. And the transfer case is just now starting to develop holes in it. So it's going to suck this winter, but other than that, I mean, I still drive 100 miles to and from work every day.
Hey, there you go.
Somebody tried to sell it to me. I'm glad to know that now.
So
I am going to fix the transfer case because I'm not going to be driving a truck with their four-wheel drive. But, you know.
But the parts places that you go to, I mean, I know Jay works for Sell Your Mac. We'll plug them, I guess, a little bit, even though we're not.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he shops there.
Well, yeah, he probably does more shopping there than we do.
Are two different things, Craig.
Yeah.
I tried to get most of my stuff through trade. And that's mostly the Facebook groups that we hang out in, Discord. You know, I very rarely purchase, unless it's something new that I need. Like the RAM for my Mac Pro, a guy on one of the Facebook groups was selling it $20 a module. So I got RAM from him, and I paid for that. But most of it is trade.
Well, speaking of trades, Jay, let's talk about that for a second. And I told you should publicly shame this guy that ghosted you, right?
Oh no! Here we go.
You can, Jack.
Yeah, I had a trade. This guy on Facebook was like, "Hey, what is this? I'm trying to get rid of it." And he had a G4 with rack mount rails on it. And those are very hard to find. So I'm like, "Yeah, those are rack mount rails. If you ever want to get rid of them, let me know." So he messages me. He's like, "Well, I could, if you have handles, then I'll send you the mount, and I can use this G4 with handles on it." Done deal. So I pack up the handles, I ship them out to him.
You actually made a video
never
of
heard
that
back.
one too.
Yeah. And he basically just kept ignoring me and said, "All right, last chance. Let me know when you're going to send me this stuff." And he didn't. So I removed him from every Facebook group I could possibly find that he was in.
I remember that guy.
Yeah. If you have to worry on, and everybody here and everybody watching is probably on the same Facebook groups that we all are, you don't want the feeling like you're on a Craigslist, you know?
Yep.
You want the feeling like you're dealing with other people that are passionate about this stuff, and if you want to do a trade or a sale, you don't need to have to worry.
Well, you want to feel like it's family, pretty much, you know?
Exactly. So yeah, he was out like that, and he will never get back in.
This is why I do business within the country, because I know that I can go from my home to where I sent the stuff. Pretty much.
Oh, you're saying so you keep it close so you can hunt them down if they screw you.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's a little harder to do over here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got a much bigger, wider area to deal with than Christian does.
But it can be done.
It can be done.
True.
If the motivation is right. You know, you just take a crowbar and you get in your car and
drive for 4 days just to...
Vigilante justice.
I'm here about those handles. Yeah.
Well, I try to keep all my trades within the group here, so you know, I've gotten how many? I lost track of how many computers I bought off of Jay. I've gotten stuff off of Greg, both Gregs.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't even get to list anything anymore, because when I have something available, I put it on iMessage on a group chat, then I put it on Discord, and then I put it on Facebook.
You don't even get to Facebook.
I usually don't even get to Discord. It's like, oh yeah, it's either Mike or Greg. They take all my crap.
The other Greg, not me.
Play everything I've gotten off you, with one exception. Got that one exception. Has been perfect.
Yeah.
Screwed me on that power supply. I really wanted to use that money.
Hey, you could have sent it back.
But he sold me a hell of a Mac Pro and a good MacBook Pro, a huge MacBook Pro, which you can't use on your lap because your legs will fall asleep. It's so heavy. But I got something else off you. Oh, I got that PowerBook off you.
Dude, you still have half a ton of crap in my basement.
Yeah, I still got crap in his basement.
Yeah.
I mean, I got enough stuff off of Greg Thompson there to upgrade 2 Mac Pros, if not 3. I can't remember exactly how many machines I fixed with the. I think it was all 3 of my 1,1.
I know I sent you a bunch of 1,1 stuff.
Memory.
I know I sent you a bunch of 1,1 stuff, but
I got risers, memory.
Yeah, but you sent me sent me some nice pro speakers.
Processors.
So.
Well, the stuff you sent me was a hell of a lot more useful than this pro speakers. Let me tell you.
I'm getting used to pro speakers, and that's the thing is that people find use in other people's trash. So other people's trash could be other people's treasure, and vice versa. So,
especially in this community, because the trash is getting harder and harder to find anymore, unfortunately. I used to be able to find people throwing away Macs constantly. They're just like, oh my God, come take these. And I go and load up my big Chevy Caprice station wagon just full of crap. Now I can't even go to a thrift store and the only thing I find are freaking Dell monitors. Which, don't get me wrong, they're actually good monitors. Yeah. But
yep.
It's just, that's the kind of stuff I'm dealing with anymore,
Yep. I've got Dell monitors here too, so I mean those things actually work.
Some of them.
Well, no, they work pretty good for what they.
Some of them.
They're a decent monitor. I use them too. I have 2 of them at work. They're 24-inch wide, great monitors.
I use them as a test monitor pretty much. I just use it because I know that it'll hook up to just about anything.
I have an NEC multi-sync and a Samsung Sync Master only because they do weird syncs like on stuff that like Apple II uses, so I don't have to worry about digging out extra monitors for them. And sometimes when I'm playing with my 9500, it doesn't like to sync to a regular monitor.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Some of them higher end models are weird.
Yeah. Now I will say, going back on topic, upgrades for my machines. I've got 2 ways that I upgrade my machines primarily, other than of course in a group like ours where we can trust people, do some trades, stuff like that.
He doesn't.
I still have that bag sitting here waiting to get sent, but I'm just really bad at sending stuff. So
was Jay at one time.
But
not anymore.
Yeah, and then I taught him other.
Jay's great if there's cash involved.
Yeah, there you go. But when it comes to, and this is something that anybody can take advantage of. My favorite ways to acquire things outside of our methods is to actually, what I will do is either buy it off of eBay, which is one option, not my favorite option. My favorite option is actually, and this is how I upgrade all of my old PowerPCs, how I upgrade all of my old equipment. I will buy like bulk runs of just equipment that has the hardware I'm looking for, whether it be the CPUs, the RAM, hard drives, whatever it is in that system that I might want to acquire. I will buy it from somebody that's like, my business just went, they wanted to
Rocky, we're losing
and I'm
you.
like,
we're losing
get
Rocky.
out of my trunk. All right. And then what?
Yeah, you started like getting all robot-y and stuff.
Sorry. Crappy internet.
All right, you're back.
No, like I was trying to say, one of my favorite ways is to find somebody, like acquire a friend in a garage, so whatever, where they got a bunch of hardware that has parts that you can utilize, and then buy it dirt cheap, $10-20, and cannibalize the hardware, and then recycle the rest of it.
Yep.
So that's my favorite way to get hardware for my Macs and stuff. That's how I've gotten all my RAM.
Pretty much impossible here, since apparently Steve Jobs came about and personally blessed every machine possible. That's.
he
I mean, the prices on old Macs here, it's crazy.
he licked them.
Old
He
and
licked
new.
them.
I mean, the prices
Yeah.
in Europe are stupendous. They really are. Basically, take whatever you have in dollars, double that, and replace the dollar sign by a euro sign, and that's what you get in Europe. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. All right, guys, we need to kind of move on a little bit here. So our next topic is going to be with Grooty and Dan on rare obscure tech. So Dan and Grooty, take it away.
Yeah, they're gonna battle to see who the coolest stuff has.
Well, Dan, you want to go
Greg can
first?
go
I
first.
mean, you know a lot more about it than I do because I actually just turned these on for the very first time while we've been streaming, and one of them's not working. So,
That's what she said.
Oh.
Those Formacs are really dodgy, Greg. They, if you honestly, in my experience, it's about 1 out of 3 end up being faulty and failing on those Formacs.
well, I only bought it for the power supply anyway, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't work or not. But still,
You bought it for a wall wart?
Those,
yeah, because they don't usually come with them, and this one did.
Can't you
So-
use any wall wart?
It's a weird wattage one. It's 16 volts at 900 milliamps.
Oh, so you need one of those variable power
DVD
supplies.
drive, the CD drive, DVD drive, or is that the converter?
And it's just the power for if you have an underpowered firewire port, or if you want to run a camera on it.
Yeah. So those, those are bus powered. Those Formac studio TVRs. Again, I have one as well, and these will. You have an in and an out on here. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Show it really good there, but an in and out on there, and it has the power switch right there. So as long as you. A word of advice on those is make sure your device, since if you use the bus power on that, make sure your Mac is powered off completely first, completely shut down before you plug that to the FireWire port. Then,
Oh, that's
then
great
turn
to
on,
know.
then turn on your FireWire device, then turn on your Mac.
Oh, it's really great to know because I just did it while the darn thing was on.
Yeah, because because that's basically it's sending up to 27 volts. All of a sudden, you'll get a fast jolt, and that can trigger there's can be on your Mac at least. There's usually a built-in your firewall controller. There's like a built-in surge protector essentially that should work and shut it off, basically, not let the device work, so it doesn't overpower your Mac's firewall board or the devices and ruin it. But it's called hot plugging. They're not really hot pluggable unless it's on a powered firewire hub or on the wall warts plugged into it. The firewire hub is really the safest way to run those bus powered devices.
Anyway, guys, we didn't mention what we were actually talking about. We're talking about the Formac Studio, which is a DVR system / video in that runs off a FireWire or the wall.
Well, that was on you guys. You guys were supposed to say that, not me. I didn't know what you guys were going to talk about.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a pretty neat system. I still can't get mine to work, and the software doesn't seem to be working in Tiger. I'm going to have to get the updated version probably. But mine actually came with Formac was a company that made products for Mac, and this even came with a pamphlet and stuff about all their products, like their this was called the gallery display here, which looks a lot like a cinema display or a studio display. And it's actually quite similar, but it actually it had extra ports on it, and then instead of just ADC and stuff. And Formac was a very interesting company. They had a lot of really neat things for Macs. And actually, they were also, I think, meant for PCs for some markets. Yeah, products for Mac and PC right on the back of it. But
They're from Germany. It's a German company. It was called Formac Electronica. That's the German. They're a German company.
Yeah. Well, exactly. They were from Germany, and I've got two studios here to show you guys, and they're pretty neat. This one's got more features, and it's transparent. I actually bought this one. It came with the original box, except for the outer casing. I think it came in the original shipping box, and it came with the pamphlet and the software and stuff, and it also came with the wall wart. But this was sold as is. The guy said he didn't test it, and I figure he did test it because it doesn't work apparently because I can't get it to power on. But that's not the reason why I bought it. I bought it literally for the wall wart. So I could power this one, which has more features, including FM tuner on the back of it. So what's your input on it, Dan?
Well, and the other thing too, there is software. Greg, I actually have the original disc, and this is probably so you got the disc. That's good.
Yeah.
The other thing too is there's software, third-party software that you can get that'll run that really good. Besides the Formac stuff was kind of iffy. I had mixed experience with that as well. So you want to try. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll have to look it up later and get it back to you. But there's a third party that made a piece of software that was
ITV.
What would you say?
ITV.
I thought that was Elgato.
No, that's not it. That was a later product. Okay. But there's a third party that made a piece of software that works really well with this Formac. So I'll have to get an update on that. I can't remember offhand. So I'll let you know.
So what else did that company make that's worth mentioning?
Well, I have an example here. Let me grab it here. Just, in the era of the super drives that were coming off, they had this as well. This is a Formac Davidian super drive.
Nice.
It has the left-right audio and the firewire ports and everything. And this is a DVD-R, DVD-R plus R drive. And I do not believe it was dual layer. I think it was just plus and minus R single layer. But since it's a firewire drive, and a Formac product, a couple great caveats. It was bootable, being firewire, so you could boot into a version of Mac OS and have this daisy chain then to a Mac that you wanted to install a disk that maybe had a bad drive. Perfect companion for the G4 Cube, because the Cube is notorious for the drive sticking with its upward orientation. So this was a great companion with the Cube, and coincidentally fried the logic board of my Cube because, again, the problem of hot plugging and that sort of thing. I think I had a power surge or an outage, and this was on. And then when the power came back on, all of a sudden after the surge, this fired back on. And I think shorted out the firewire port in my. This would have been a case we talked about UPSs earlier. The UPS probably saved that Cube's logic board. So I have a half faulty Cube logic board with basically the firewire ports are dead. So the firewire carries 27 volts of power. So you do want to just be careful when you're using these and what they're plugged into. UPSs, powered hubs are your friend. So I should have had that stuff. But what's great is there's proprietary software though. The Davidian had some neat like iMovie-like editing suite, and it produced some really nice DVDs. And at the time, these sold for $300, I believe, or $299.99, and you got the software with it, so it was a pretty good value. And then when paired with the Formac Studio TVR, it had kind of like this meshed product type conversion. So you use the Formac TVR product disc, and then use the Davidian, and the footage would transfer natively, and it was on DV format, digital video. So it was good stuff anyway for making DVDs and digital files back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. This is Steve. I'm
Steve is here.
I remember seeing that stuff advertised endlessly in Macworld, Mac Addict, etc.
Your voice sounds very good for not working, Steve.
Well, I was resting for a while. Anyway, I think the allure of it was always that for like, what was it, a third or a half of the price of Apple stuff, you got something that was pretty close to it. So
yeah,
I always liked the displays and stuff. I only have the same thing Greg has, the Formac stuff, but those DVD burner drives, I remember seeing them advertised greatly back in the day. So those are pretty cool.
Yeah, with the DVD burner drive, FireWire, all that crap, drive that I use is a Losse drive case. The actual optical drive, I think, had some kind of bad cap on it, so I swapped out the optical drive for an actual super drive from a G5 tower. And I'll tell you what, it is very useful to have a FireWire optical drive for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the nice FireWire optical drives I have, I got it. I think it's a VST model. It's a FireWire bus powered. It's a CD burner, so it's nothing too fancy. But I used it with my original clamshell FireWire because that only had a DVD-ROM in it, and so it allowed me to burn things on the go actually because it. Excuse me, because it actually was bus powered. I didn't have to plug it into the wall, and actually use that still, like on a DV iMac or like Dan mentioned the G4 Cube, because those mechanisms start to go. So always good to have an external optical drive, especially a FireWire one to deal with all that.
Which, by the way, the faulty part on G4 Cube and a rubber band, basically. It's a belt that goes between the motor and the ejector function, and that's all that goes bad on those, for the most part, unless the read eye or something like that goes bad.
Right. I have Skype set up so I can only see Greg and Dan right now, and I just saw on the stream that Christian was holding up a power CD, I think it was.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I'm very jealous.
He's complaining about the
but
prices, but he has all the cool stuff over there.
Yeah, power CD, SCSI drive, pretty neat.
Yeah, someone get me a pin out of that SCSI port on the back, because it somehow powers that damn device that time.
And what is this? I heard about CRTs.
Yeah, it's all yours, Dan.
So, I wrote a Low End Mac article. You guys will have to check the site out, lowendmac.com, for the RCA MM36100 you see sitting right behind me here. This display, I found it on the Facebook Marketplace. Someone had it listed, and the first thing I caught on this right away, and I'm going to try to get my MacBook Pro camera here close enough but to see it. If you guys quit messaging and getting my Mac's Messenger app spun up every time, you might be able to see there's USB.
Now
ports
that you
there.
said it, we're going to blow up your iMessage, right?
Oh, this is going to be all over your video now with the dinging.
I just posted a link to your article, Dan.
So this thing had USB ports, and I saw it on the pictures when the person posted it. And I said, well, I've never seen a TV with USB ports on it before. What's that? So I start just kind of looking around, RCA TV and with USB ports. I start just checking everything. It said super. Another thing in the advertisement up here, you can't really see it, but it says super digital high res. So that to me tipped me off. It was really something special. So when I got a look, went over to the person's house that had this posted, and got a look at the back of it. Lo and behold, it had dual V ports. This is a presentation monitor. These are extraordinarily rare. They didn't make a lot of these. These were meant for kind of your what you call prosumer market. The yes, you're going to keep hearing the dinging. That's all right. But the prosumer market, these were $2,200 originally, $2,200, and compared to a Sony broadcast video monitor or a professional video monitor, the PVM 20 inches at the time were around $10,000, and the broadcast video monitors were around $30,000. So you could get one of these or spend an insane amount on something else, but I just don't think it was very well marketed or well known. This came out in the first couple years of high definition TV. These were produced between 2000 and 2001, and I'm going to go and show you this in action. You'll kind of hear it click a little bit when it's firing up, and it's it'll go and it's kind of got two modes. It's got the VGA mode and a standard 480i mode, and it'll display VGA at 480p and even 800 by 600.
And how many inches that thing?
And this is a 36-inch monitor. This weighs 190 pounds.
I was gonna
Nice.
say that thing's
It's a
heavy.
good workout.
The heck of a workout.
Take
Here's
that
Mac-
to your bench press.
There's Mac OS 9 booting up right now.
Now you said 480i on that?
480p. This is 640
That's
by 480p
impressive.
or 800 by 600 on VGA. So sounds like everybody's real excited. I hear lots of dinging.
Man, you are a popular fella, Dan.
Yeah, you are.
I am very excited.
Now, while that thing is firing up, you are nerding out hard about anything CRT, and you're in a group about this stuff, right?
Yes. So I'm also a member of this Facebook group called the CRT Collective. And if you want to know anything about these CRTs, they're a great resource of people that that are into this stuff. And you can see how sharp the resolution is on this coming up. So it's most monitors that most TVs anyway you plug into would be providing an image this sharp. So there's high voltage components that run in here where you get a lot of flicker normally, and you'll see the line normally coming through on a TV. You see a little bit of flicker on the other end, but not that line coming through, because this is essentially running a VGA full RGB and not needing to do that pass and scan every time.
It doesn't look bad, actually.
No, all I see is it's like it's flickering
Yeah.
just a little bit, but it's not like
Yeah.
it's almost like it's synced
It's hard
up.
to see. This is,
Big ass monitor.
I'm gonna go to 800 by 600 on it right now. It's gonna switch resolutions, and you can see it. It's
Nice.
So do 800 by 600 or 640 by 480. And I do.
Now,
the six-
Dan, do you want to explain why there is flicker between most typical CRTs and most typical video devices?
Well, when looking at 480i, especially like any kind of normal CRT that's running a standard definition mode, the interlaced lines on a CRT, it has to send two sets of lines. So you're getting, every half frame, you're getting a pass of the other line. So essentially what your eyes see then is that single line coming through as it's drawing all those other lines. So when you're seeing that, it's yuck it up, Greg.
It's not me.
I'm going to launch Doom 2 just to kind of show this. Will switch to 256 colors just to give a quick demonstration. And again, you're seeing this in full resolution here.
Now, what refresh rates does it support? I know some Macs will be very picky on what it
This
exports.
is 60 hertz right here, and it'll do also 72 hertz.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. It does 72 at that size? Holy
Yes.
mackerel.
So, I mean, this is a really
The flicker actually went down as soon as you
Actually, I
launched
don't
the game.
see any flicker at all now.
That's because probably the game force is 60.
Yeah, so it's really, you can see how smooth this is.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great.
And anyway, the other thing that's great about this, I'm going to put the Doom demo here. And the other thing that's really cool is on the back of this, if you look in the article, it actually has standard left-right audio jacks as well. So with the VGA port, so here's the other VGA input. And I'm going to turn my Sega Dreamcast on. It has a VGA cable with left-right audio.
Cool.
Steve
that
just started
good.
drooling.
Yeah. I've been drooling.
Hey, I'm with Steve on that one. Ooh, boy. I had a Trinitron Sony that had video outputs, and that thing was beautiful. But
so I actually have a
it was
Trinitron
nothing like that.
Well. I have a HS 420 36-inch behind me.
Oh, mine was only like 27-inch. Oh, I'm so envious.
Now, Dan, I have to ask a dumb question.
Yeah.
How does it work as a TV?
Well, it does have standard S-video and left-right audio and composite ports. And if you wanted to watch 480p audio or 480p video and it actually will do 1080i as well. So that's
wow.
The Dreamcast.
I bet you it looks great with a good laser disc.
Yeah, I was about to say the comb filter on that must be amazing.
Yeah,
it really is
great with laser discs.
And that's actually kind of amazing, it being an RCA branded item too.
So that they sold this. There's a 25-inch similar version to this presentation monitor they sold under the ProScan label, but this one just has way more features and with the 2 ports, and it does have component video as well. And what makes this good for retro gaming, not just for the Dreamcast and for the Mac like that, is the component video port can handle a 240p signal as well. So you can get consoles modded for RGB, put it on a component switcher. It just has one component port, but that component port will handle the 240p. So you'll get those perfect scan lines, arcade-looking scan lines. A lot of people do SCART to component on their consoles that get modded that because the game consoles like the NES, Super NES, Genesis, a lot of those consoles had native RGB output, but needed, they needed to have the SCART European version. And the pinouts on our US NTSC consoles. So if you bought a European version of that console, it would be expecting a PAL signal when you plug it in, 50 hertz.
Yeah.
This TV
are those USB ports just a hub, or is there anything else?
It is a hub. On the back of the monitor, there's a USB-B plug for plugging into a computer, and then there's a USB-A and 2 on the back, and not 2 other USB-As on the front. So,
I'm not a fan of CRTs at all, but that's an impressive display.
Yeah.
So I have 2 questions for you. One, how much did you pay for it, you lucky bastard? And
0.
And 2, how did you lift it onto your desk?
So my brother and I hold this up here. It was the one you see behind you now. I'm going to get out of the way, but this one right here, you can see right over here. This is a 36-inch Trinitron HS.
That's silver.
That thing weighs 235 pounds.
Ooh, I believe it. Sorry.
They made a 40-inch that weighs 350 pounds. So.
Are you kidding? They made a 40-inch of that?
He made a 40-inch. So.
Jeez. I thought the 27-inch was going to kill me when I got that 100-pound SOB up the stairs. Oh, God, I can't imagine.
The CRTs have come back big for gaming. A lot of people with the RGB mods that have been going on, with 240p gaming. Actually, Google around, look at GameStop has a new concept that they're going to redo their stores, and they're going to try to really cater to this new retro gaming crowd. and start selling. I assume they're going to try to start selling retro games and compete with the mom and pop shops.
Again, they're going to try pushing that more. But on a different note, I'm a little curious because I know that Trinitron should have video output because mine did, which was like one of my favorite features about the monitor I had. I could output it back into my video capture card, so I could be sitting there playing, my video games, and it would, output to my video capture card, and then I could sit there and record, and it was amazing.
Yep.
But does your RCA have that as well?
Yes,
is that
it
a
does.
feature on that?
It does have S-Video out for capture.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So when are you sending that to Kansas?
Yeah, I think the shipping alone is.
Holy crap!
The Trinitron here, that actually has an HDMI input on that Trinitron. So
yours does. Wow.
Yeah, so the HS420 has an HDMI input that'll carry the full video and audio to it as well. Mm-hmm. And I have a DVI scaler. I wrote another article about that TV on low-end Mac, and I found a really good deal on a DVI. Really, it's an HDMI video scaler. It does composite, component, and S-Video, and VGA, and HDMI/DVI. It'll scale it at 480i, 480p, 720p, 1080i, and 1080p, and depending on what you're sending it to. So I can go and get my Mac, and with VGA, it gives you a lot of options with the pin cushion and everything. So I was able to get a real good picture on that as well, but not as good as the RCA in terms of native RGB VGA. It's better for digital. So a lot of the Mac digital resolutions don't look real good on that because it's 4:3. So I might as well just use a modern display. But for old consoles, scaled, perfect.
Oh, beautiful on those. Yeah. Now I have a question. So was that Trinitron towards the era when like Plasma was starting to come out? And is that why it has the HDMI and everything?
Yeah, 04, 05 was when they made the HS420. The other one if you wanted to get a 16:9 Trinitron for gaming, you'd want to look for it's the KD 34 XBR 960. Now that's a 34-inch XBR, and it's got a super fine pitch aperture grill. The aperture grill, Sony used something called aperture grill on their high-end Trinitrons, and it basically is almost like a fine mesh of almost like a filament, like almost like a tungsten filament. It's real fine mesh on there. And what that does is basically the projection from the CRT coming out of the direct view of the CRT. They're able to distribute that projection of the phosphor basically projection that's coming out of the direct view. Distribute that, and you get a real smooth edge. It's almost like a hardware version of anti-aliasing, if you want to really explain it.
So CRT form right there.
Before Rocky piles on more questions, we're already running 11 minutes late.
Okay, well, I apologize, guys. And look, I actually have work to do tonight. I'm going to be facilitating some.
But I do want to throw something
you're gonna have
else
to
in
send a
there.
link.
Because I do like hearing about this stuff. Have you considered there might be tons of people already out there that do it. I've never looked it up. But all the stuff about CRTs, and you're obviously passionate about it, why not start a little YouTube channel, explaining this stuff? Or, hey, here's this monitor, this about it,
Yep. Well, I don't want so many of these. These things are heavy. They're big and bulky. You don't want too many and collecting too many because obviously you need two people to move them around.
Yeah.
And just being able to
need a floor that can support.
I was going to say a floor to support.
I'll tell you what, if you make your channel, I'll subscribe. How about that?
I think that I just maybe put a video or two out there on my personal channel and share it around. But I think that the best place to share this stuff is low-end Mac, because you're able to use this stuff with retro Macs and retro gaming. That's what makes it great. So.
Yeah, yep. No, definitely. I'm I'm gonna consider buying a CRT just so I can use a Nintendo 64 again. But when that time comes, I'll consult you for the best option.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for being here.
Having me on this week. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime, man.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
See you, dude.
All right.
All right,
Come
guys,
back.
we got one more topic to get through. We're going to try to zip through this one, but iOS 13 dropped last week officially.
Yep.
And we want to know what you guys think of it so far.
I love it.
I do too.
It's all right.
It
There was an
just before the
update
show
to it
tonight.
today or yesterday.
Yesterday.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What was that, Chris?
Huh?
You said something, but I couldn't hear it.
I just updated to iOS 13 before the show, so not impressed so far.
We have
I think it's
contests
very-
at work about who has the best memoji that looks like them. Mine sucks.
I think it's very similar to iOS 12. The Memoji thing is, I guess, pretty neat. And we know, Rocky, that was a few days ago.
Mhm.
But I've been running it since June, and it's
I've been running it
another
since
iOS update.
I've been running it on my iPad since it was announced. So
Yeah.
I run it on my phone. The battery life is good. The speed is awesome. Face ID, they weren't lying. It's fast as hell right now. All my apps are fast and responsive. App downloads are smaller. Dan just finally read his iMessage.
all 100 of
Where
them.
did the app updates function go? Because I went into the App Store and I don't see the
It's-
updates.
okay.
Stupid.
No,
It
okay.
shows up in your account now.
Yes, if
Up in
you
the top corner.
Yeah.
open it up,
That's stupid.
it says App
Good.
Store. You'll see the little icon with the little updates on it. If you click on that, okay, and it opens up this store here, and it looks like the App Store pretty much. So you see that, but up here in the corner you'll see a little emoji icon or memoji or whatever, and it's got like a little badge on it. That's where your updates are now. So basically,
That's
you
good.
click on that.
They-
And it comes down here,
Yeah.
and you got to scroll down, and these are your updates. So now you have all your updates below.
It's
Oh,
dumb.
yeah. Oh, that's
They're-
really stupid.
They're trying.
Yeah.
Basically, what they're trying to do is force everyone to auto updating.
Yes, and I don't auto
And
update.
F them. So I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, if
No.
auto updating worked in the first place, I wouldn't
That's the
want
only
to go
feature I
into the
absolutely
store.
hate on iOS 13.
Now I'm so far I haven't really sat down and explore all the new features, but so far I'm a fan. I like it.
It's stable.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. It's stable.
I
do
haven't-
occasionally
Better than
have a
12.4.
message. So what?
Better than 12.4.
Yeah.
And by the way, 12.4 received the software update today, as did the older version of WatchOS,
Really?
which is very unique for Apple to push out an update for an older iOS version when the new one is already out. So
That is strange, yeah.
But
Must be for
I-
like the iPhone 6 and stuff.
no, it's a security fix.
yeah.
iPhone 6s got 13 update. I had
Well, no,
today.
I said 6 because my daughter still has a 6. And 6
Go
can't
ahead.
take. No. 6S can take 13. A 6
Oh.
can only take 12.4.
That's stupid.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah,
But,
I do
um,
agree.
Like I
iOS
was saying, the only thing I've been having problem with is message apps. Sometime the message app, bleh, I'm getting tired. App has problems where the keyboard won't load in the right direction and stuff. And I've had a few problems with the Messages app, but other than that, everything's been pretty solid.
Yeah, I am hesitant to upgrade. I read something about, I don't know if it's only on the iPhone 11 or whatnot, that apparently Apple limited the Q wireless charging to 5 volts or watts or 5 watts instead of the 7.5
Yeah, I read
if your
that.
charger can do it. The article only mentioned the 11. I did not, see anything about any older phones, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that. So I'm staying with
Well,
what I
if you're
got.
gonna test it, now's the time to do it, because for at least for the next week, probably Apple will still be signing iOS 12.
Yeah,
You can
it's
still
such
Better do it
downgrade.
quick.
Uh,
Better do it quick.
I'm not. I want someone else to do it. I'm not. I'm not restoring my phone. No, thank you. It's too much work.
What phone do you have, Steve?
An 8.
Okay, so you do have the wireless charging, then, yeah.
I run a 7 and a 6S, and I can say 13 is far better than 12.4, and the battery life has improved.
And 12
Yeah,
was already so much better than 11.
Well, one of the other things that I like about it the most, and they should have had this a long time ago, is dark mode.
Yes. Oh my God.
I
But their
did
dark mode isn't as good as Android's dark mode, though.
We're not okay. Rocky, you're banned. No, just kidding. You said Android.
Well, but to circle back what Grooty said, he said messages. Have you tried the search feature in messages?
I have
It
not
is
yet.
awesome.
I have not yet.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
It is freaking amazing compared to what it was. It is awesome. So that alone made iOS 13 absolutely worth it to me.
What? The Bitmojis?
No, the searching in iMessage.
Yeah, I have not tried that yet. I have.
Oh, it's amazing.
I don't usually search my messages, so that's not a feature that really concerns me
if you're
much.
looking for something specific, like somebody that sent you something, it's much better.
Yeah. But do we want to hop on to the next section real quick and try to keep it under 2.5 hours?
Yeah, we could try that. All right, so we got our iOS 13 out. Let me pull up the next overlay here. History, news, and rumors. So, Greg Rutke, you've reached a milestone. So
Yes, I did. Yeah, I hit 5,000 subscribers on the 24th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Last time I checked, I was 5,010. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
So when's
only
the
going
giveaway?
up from there.
I'm only there for the giveaways, so you got to give them away.
Right. I probably will save the giveaway for a time later.
Well,
but
it's amazing that he
I
actually
haven't
reached
confirmed
5,000.
that
He hasn't put a video out in about 2 months.
I know. I think it's mostly Ken and all his videos that have been pushing them out to me. And I thank you a lot, Ken. But I am going to start doing videos again. It's just
But Ken has
time
things that
finished.
blow up in him.
Oh, God. You mentioned that.
I had
For
to.
anybody
That
that
was
doesn't know,
great-
refer to
Great
Discord.
typo.
Yeah, if you want to know what
that
that's
was
about, Discord is the place to read about it.
Yes.
At this point, Greg, I'll get a video up before you will.
But yeah, hit 5,000.
All right, what about you, Jay? You got something that actually happened that you did today too, or recently.
Yeah, well, nothing big, but I am doubling down on AppleSerialNumberInfo.com. It's I'm slacking. I need to add models. I need to update the pages. I need to add forms. So I figured, you know what? I'm gonna start a Facebook page for it, so that all the news and updates and whatever I could just dump on Facebook, so I don't have to update an HTML page every time there's something worth mentioning. So I created that page, and if you want to know what's going on with that website, go there, click like, click follow, however that works on Facebook, and if there's an update, you'll read about it there.
I'm clicking on follow. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, I'll have to go do the same thing here. I haven't done it. I don't think I've done it to your Facebook group yet, or whatever.
You better.
No.
Well, I better. I'm the one paying your Patreon, so.
Oh. Now I feel bad because it's been a while, but Mike actually prepared his section tonight, and now we don't have time for it.
But
or do we?
No, but I got to give Jay one thing about this. He hasn't put out any videos lately, but he actually has been putting out some blog posts that are pretty good. So
They're very good.
yeah, if you go out to
Not just pretty
houseofmoth.com, he has some
Oh,
really
yeah,
good stuff.
they're great.
All right, guys. So this is we're going to cut this off here in a bit. So we're skipping the shameless self-promotion, and we're not doing a what were they smoke because I didn't even have anything for them. So
No, we were going to open it up to the
Slacker.
viewers.
That's gonna
Say, hey,
take-
find something good.
no,
But
I'm going to do the Jedi mind trick where you are not doing that.
Ain't got no time for that.
Yes.
I don't watch Star Trek, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. God.
There was something in that Lord of the Rings thing.
All right, we're going to start telling Jay to wear a red shirt.
Now you got Steve doing it.
GT.
Jay should wear a red shirt.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I don't do red. I do blue.
Nope. Red shirts. Sorry. All right, guys.
Well, Dana
I
says
say we move on to the next.
yes.
Dana says he wants to see Mike's segment. There's still like 15 people watching, so we might as well.
No, I'm starving
Yeah,
right
let's
now.
do
I
it.
need to
Come
get some
on,
meat.
let's do it.
No,
Come
we're
on.
gonna
So
save-
you-
we're gonna say we already.
You run downstairs and get yourself a cracker or something while Mike does his thing.
Well, we're gonna save it for next week, so Mike doesn't have to prepare next week. See?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that
See what
works.
she did there.
Yeah.
You cool with that, Mike?
What does Mike think?
I'm the one that said
Exactly.
it in the first place.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
Lazy
All right,
bastard.
guys. Up
That's
there
fine.
we have.
Besides that, I kind of, and to be honest with you, I kind of need Steve to help me.
See.
Oh.
okay.
I'll
Okay.
help you.
And since, well, I need one of Steve's. Steve has one testing models of the computer line I want to talk of in his basement that he can pull out rather easily because I know exactly where it's at and sell it. So.
'Cause he was wanting to
That's what
steal
his
it when
wife
he was
said.
there, right?
Oh.
All right, guys. Anyways, make
All right,
sure.
we'll save it for next week
Yeah,
then.
make sure
So
you
next
like and
week,
subscribe.
everybody needs, next week, just for a little teaser, next week bring pizza.
Oh man, now you made me hungry.
Yeah, you made me even hungrier. Thanks, Mike.
Welcome.
All right, guys.
Are we also not mentioning the contest that we started last week?
No, that's a given. If they're not on Discord, they should know about it on Discord. That's why I'm going
We
to say.
started a contest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know about
it's
it.
on Discord. So if
Yeah.
Get on Discord, people.
exactly.
Oh, that contest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Oh yeah, we announced it on. Oh, that was a random thing, but it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Like and subscribe both YouTube and Facebook, and also follow us on Twitter. Steve has that information. So if you see Steve, Steve should hopefully post a link in there. We need to get a link put on our thing too. I need to get that link.
By the way, do you realize that you pasted the Discord logo right on top of our guest's face?
Yes, I did.
Like,
That's
we
where.
can't even see him anymore.
But that's guess who made that overlay?
Guess where you put his video? That's just rude, man.
Yes.
All right, here you go.
Sorry,
You
Christian.
happy? I moved him.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. So make sure you like and subscribe.
Every time.
Come and join us on Discord. Our Discord server is up there on the screen. We do have a bunch of different channels on there. We talk about a bunch of different topics. So make sure you join us. Check the info. Check out the description, info, and links, because I'll have all the topics in there. We have all our links in there for all our different channels.
Don't
Not that
forget
it
to
needs
support
introduction,
Macintosh.
but
What?
we'll add Macintosh Garden as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't
Heck
forget
yeah.
to support him.
Yes. Don't forget to
Yeah.
support
Or else.
Christian. He stayed up late at night just to come here onto the show.
No. He went to sleep early. He's not sitting there like a zombie. He's fresh and awake. He had his coffee and everything.
Pretty much. Went to bed early.
And spread the word. Tell your friends about us, man. We're up over 300 some odd subs now. We want to get to that 1,000 mark. So I think we're going to try to do something special if we reach that 1,000 mark. So make sure you guys get.
Grooty's gonna buy a Mac Pro.
Yeah, there you go. He's going to buy the new Mac Pro, not.
I really want to. I really do.
So, anyways, guys, make sure you tell your friends. So, with that,
Yep.
we're going to go ahead and say bye, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for joining us, Christian and Dan. That was awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys
See you,
later.
folks.